where do you draw the distinction between a creative, out-of-the-box solution to a problem and what people would call metagaming?
I feel like that is a very gray, broad line. There is no defined answer for it. But I suppose one example would be the difference between the metagaming versus critical thinking. Because metagaming, obviously, that's the player that knows things that the character shouldn't know. But the character coming up with the right solution or the right answer based off of circumstance is critical creative thinking. Imagine a monster that's attacking the town, and it's some sort of, spriggan or something. Looks like a tree or a bush, what have you. And these things are attacking the town. Well, the player, metagaming is going to be, hey, they're weak to fire. Stat block says it. Critical thinking, the characters don't know this, but hey, look, wood burns, right?
Right. Like, yeah, there is that reasonable, like, maybe, yeah, okay, the player has seen the stat block and the character hasn't, but the character could say, yeah, wood burns, so it's reasonable to this. Or, forest fires really screw up trees. These are tree people. Let's, so yeah, there is a lot that you can do that is just using what is reasonable logic, best possible knowledge. But I think that some of the more specific stuff, while they may be familiar with the general concepts or whatever, unless there is like a personal breadth of character experience to draw from, that usually you're going to have as much bad information as good information floating around in the world. And you just think about today, like half the stuff you hear like that they say is good and half of it's bad, if that even shit. But when you get to the point where it's like, okay, well, you wouldn't know that trolls keep regenerating unless you hit them with fire, unless your character has dealt with trolls in the past or something like that. But I think that there's some flexibility there in the fact that maybe they've never dealt with tree elementals before, or something like that. But simple, like basic logic does lead you to, well, see how fire does or something like that.
Yeah. I know another thing that helps is something that I feel like more people should do is to encourage the creative thinking, and as well as to keep up with your character's knowledge. I have a player's character in one of my games that keeps a journal of anytime. I like to make a point to, if there's a resistance to some type of damage, or if there's a vulnerability or immunity to a certain type of damage, I make sure to sort of describe that. I don't outright say it, but I describe it. Anytime something like that happens, this character writes in their journal. They take a literal note that says, skeleton apparently weak to blunt force trauma, right. Zombie apparently weak to holy, and they keep up with this. And then in the future, when they see these things, they pull out that journal and say, hey guys, remember back then we fought this?
Check out their Pokedex or whatever.
They pull out the Pokedex. It's weak to this, guys. I know this.
Yeah.
And you have a written account of that character's knowledge for specific creatures, which that is a prime example of, here is our creative thinking, and that it's not anywhere near meta because they're just keeping a track of what they have learned in game.
Yeah, and that's like a really cool way to further engage your players, and also to keep it like easier for the player to say, all right, this is the information my character has access to, regardless of what I know about the world of D&D. My character has run into this, and this in these situations, and tried this, and this to solve them, and this one was successful, this one wasn't. It's like, okay, cool. And it's really hard to do that without some sort of log to keep track of every single instance of, have we ever dealt with this thing before? But I think that that's another thing that leads you to the same kind of problems that average people are going to run into, which is like, okay, well, there was this one situation where those weren't actually zombies, they were this other thing that looks like zombies, that acts like zombies, but they're technically slightly different, and they don't quite follow the same rules, but they get lumped in with zombies. Now maybe zombies have picked up an extra trait in this character's mind, or require this other step to be dealt with properly, or whatever.
Exactly. One thing that I personally had happen in one of my games, process of elimination, creative thinking in action. My players fighting hordes of zombies. They are just tearing these zombies up. But because of, the undead fortitude, zombies keep getting back up. the players are freaking out, like, hey, why is this happening? What's going on?
Maybe they
And
never
then,
die, you know?
yeah, it's like, what's happening here? And then the cleric, you know, lands the last hit on one of these zombies with his radiant damage spell, and the zombie didn't get back up. He's like, wait a second, wait, what just happened here? Like, he's not getting back. Yeah, and then they're like, guys, I figured it out. The holy spells, they do it, you know? And it's like, there you go. See, that's creative thinking.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not exactly the only thing that, you know, it's like there are totally other ways to get around to that, but it's very fun then that, like, yeah, the cleric was able to really put one down. Like, that's right in line with the concept of the, you know, the class or whatever, and that's, I think, if you keep some of that information back and force players to work their way through, while it may initially seem like, oh crap, what do we do? Yeah, you end up with that more impressive thing if you let them be creative and then benefit from thinking their way through the problem rather than just sort of, okay, you rolled a 17, so I'll give you the answer kind of thing or something like that.